I think we'd better make a start. So, hello, my name's Adrian Williams. I'm the Dean of Postgraduate Research Studies here at the University of Reading. It's a great pleasure to see you in this room today. You know, I teach undergraduates medicines manufacture, so I'm not used to having a full lecture theatre. So yes, you're very welcome. It's great to be here. The Doctoral Research Conference is my favourite event of the year. It's where we get to see the breadth of really good quality research that goes on across the university, driven by you. I hope you've had a chance to look at the other posters, the images that are out there, chat to some people beyond your discipline. You all have conferences and things that happen in the school or external that are your subject-specific sorts of activities. Today is an opportunity to see everything else that's going on in worlds beyond your own. And that can be really instructive for you, just to see how others do research, how they think, how they approach a problem, how they tackle things in a different way that might just stimulate you into thinking a different way. Well, I hope you'll see some of that as we go through the presentations today. I was really fortunate yesterday. I was at the university's Research Awards ceremony, the grown-up awards, if you like. No. I was really struck by how many of the projects that are core research projects, our highest quality research that's winning prizes, how much of that was driven by our postgraduate research students. And actually some of the prize winners have been here, undergraduate, masters, PhD into postdoc. So you're on that pipeline as researchers in training, whether it's at Reading or elsewhere, to take high quality research beyond these walls. A little bit of housekeeping to start us off. So we're not expecting a fire drill. It's hot enough already, we're not going to do that. If there is an alarm goes off, then please do vacate and congregate in the quad at the side. Would you please make sure your mobile phones are on silent? It's very off-putting for a presenter halfway through their train of thought to have a phone go off. So please make sure your phones are on silent. You might need them for doing some voting, as I'll say in a moment. We have two categories of awards that we have. Some of you may know this from previous years. If this is new to you, there are two categories of awards. We have the Judges' Awards. We have a very distinguished panel of judges that we've drawn, a very broad panel of judges, and I'm very grateful for their efforts that they've put into this. They're listed at the back of your brochure. And so they've made some judgments on some of the categories already. They're experienced people, well-established supervisors, and know what's going on. But we also have our second category, is our People's Choice Awards. These are voted for by you. And we have that because, as I'm sure you're all aware, supervisors usually get things wrong. So this is to try and redress the balance and get the right result from these. Claudia, that's not me, by the way, getting things wrong. So there's two opportunities. There's opportunities for you to vote. You hopefully have your QR codes there. I would ask as we go through some of the categories, for example, our 3-minute thesis category has 2 sessions. So wait until we've been to the end of the second session before you choose which was your favourite presentation. So with that, I think we will start with our first presenter, Anika. I thought you were going to run down from the back. So we have a competition that is about our research for a better world. And that's a mission of the university, is to have impactful research. Anika is going to talk to us about her very impactful research around multilingualism. So, Anika.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anika, and I'm here to talk to you about my research in which I've been investigating how a professional development program called the Enduring Principles of Learning can have an impact on multilingual pupils' language and literacy development. So I'm going to jump in and tell you what my research project was all about. I'm interested in this program called the Enduring Principles of Learning, or I'll call the EPL for short now, that is originally from the United States. I wanted to measure to what extent this program that is designed for teachers actually has on pupils' outcomes. So the EPL is designed to support multilingual pupils develop their English language and literacy skills by supporting teachers in creating intentionally talk-orientated classrooms in which essentially teachers talk less and pupils talk more. My study tracked pupils in Year 1 and Year 4 across 4 primary schools in the southeast of England, with their progress in speaking, listening, reading and writing assessed before and after teachers engaged with the EPL. So how does this project have relevance to the national picture? Across schools in England, nearly 20% of the national pupil population is multilingual. This translates to over 1.6 million pupils across the country who are recognised as having exposure to languages other than English at home. But what this means in practice is that these pupils are typically learning the English language and view curriculum content through English all at the same time. But it's a mixed picture nationally. For instance, you'll find that in the northeast of England, there's a borough called Redcar and Cleveland, where only 1% of their pupil population is recognised as multilingual. Whereas if we go down to the London borough of Tower Hamlets, you'll find that 75% of their pupil population is recognised as multilingual. So it's perhaps no surprise that research in this particular area can be quite messy, because schools across England may have any number of pupils and languages represented, and this is likely to be different in every school and classroom that you go to. Now, for a decade, there's been a reduction in guidance provided by the national government to teachers, with the current national curriculum that all state schools in the country are mandated to follow, referring to multilingual learners in essentially what is a few paragraphs. For context, in the previous iteration of the national curriculum, there were 8 pages worth of guidance for supporting these particular learners. Furthermore, in the past, there was considerable amount of ring-fenced funding to support underachieving multilingual learners, but this has been removed now for a long time and is now very, very limited. So some key problems that are addressed in this project. First, the current national curriculum, as I've mentioned, has scant reference to multilingual learners and is essentially centred around English-only speakers. So assessments tend to provide a deficit picture, or essentially focus on what multilingual learners can't do as opposed to what they can do, which we have to bear in mind includes their ability to understand and communicate in more than one language, which I think is very, very cool. Furthermore, there are currently no materials that acknowledge multilingual learners' needs in England. For instance, it may be that a multilingual learner is really good at hearing a story and then verbalising their understanding of that story to their teacher. But that very same multilingual learner may find it quite tricky to read that story on their own and then try and give their response through written means. So it can sometimes be difficult for teachers to identify where they should be targeting support. And lastly, as teachers gain more experience in the classroom, there is very little on offer in supporting their professional development as they build their teaching careers. And so it can be difficult for them to know how they can best support the multilingual learners in their classroom. So there were 2 overarching aims to my PhD study. The first was to measure the success of the EPL on pupils' speaking, listening, reading and writing. And the second was to take time to understand pupils' responses to the changes in teaching style they experienced in their classrooms as a result of the EPL programme that their teachers were engaging with. So I'd like to briefly talk you through the impact of the EPL on pupils' outcomes. So one thing that was immediately clear was that the impact of being taught by teachers who engaged with the EPL was not the same across the different skill areas or indeed across the year groups. You'll remember that this study worked with pupils in Year 1 who are aged 5 to 6 and pupils in Year 4 who are aged 8 to 9. And this study essentially tracked the development of their English language and literacy skills before and after their teachers engaged with the EPL. But we also had a control school to help aid with our comparisons. So looking at Year 1 first, we found that pupils who were taught by EPL teachers made greater progress in the speaking and listening tests over time compared to their control school peers who received no EPL teaching whatsoever. In reading, there was marginally greater progress made by control pupils, and in writing, there were no statistically significant differences between our control and our experimental pupils. Moving on to Year 4 then, pupils who were taught by EPL teachers instead made greater progress in the listening and in the reading tests over time in comparison to their control school peers. Like in Year 1, there were no statistically significant differences in writing, and control pupils made marginally greater progress in the speaking test. So these findings are even more interesting when you consider the context that they are surrounded in. So part of this data was collected during COVID, which was an interesting time to be data collecting. But it meant that schools were under immense pressure to remain open. Pupils had very mixed home learning experiences, and teachers were constantly navigating disruptions to classroom learning. So the key takeaway here is that despite these really challenging contexts, we know that the EPL was still able to demonstrate measurable impact on pupils' English language and literacy skills in different areas across the 2 year groups. Additionally, I think that even if COVID didn't happen, it's still quite important to remember that assessment tools and the associated results that we gain from them should be understood, or at least framed within a context, especially when we're thinking about multilingual learners, because we know how linguistically diverse our classrooms in England can be. So what was achieved as a result of this PhD study? Well, in response to a lack of suitable assessment materials in England at the moment, a key achievement that's central to my PhD was the development of these English language and literacy tests that our pupils took part in. I was supported by WEDA, who are a very well-established US-based consortium, and I'd like to quickly take this opportunity to thank them for their support. Some of the pictures below just show you extracts of the speaking, listening, reading and writing tests that our children took part in. Other achievements then include that from the outset, we've always wanted to unite teachers and researchers with the common goal of supporting multilingual learners. So it's been such a privilege to be part of a genuinely collaborative project that's brought many stakeholders together from the beginning. Furthermore, I was able to virtually meet and engage with academics based in the US, such as Professor Etienne, who's written extensively about the EPL, and together with other colleagues, is very interested in the impact of the EPL on pupils' outcomes here in England. This has also been reflected in the reach that we've had with our project blog, as well as other academics that I've been able to engage with at national and international level conferences, which for a PhD student is nothing short of amazing. And if you're thinking, well, how did this study contribute towards research for a better world? Then I can tell you that the development and use of these test materials that feature in this study help give us a snapshot of pupils' skills in these different areas. This can help teachers have a better understanding of where their pupils are at and where they might need more support. And this is important because the current test materials that we use in classrooms in England at the moment simply don't consider the needs of multilingual learners right now. And so there's arguably a sense of inequity in how we are assessing our pupils in our classrooms in England today. So what's next for us? I look forward to sharing our research with a number of stakeholders. This includes our schools in England, especially schools where they are serving linguistically diverse pupil populations across the country. We hope to be sharing our work with other researchers in the hope that there continues to be further contributions to the field, despite the challenging practicalities of undertaking research in this field. And lastly, we'd love to share this research with the Department for Education, the DFE, particularly to raise awareness of the issues that I mentioned previously, such as the lack of government guidance in the curriculum, the need for tests that are actually suitable for multilingual learners, and more professional development opportunities for teachers as well. And so to summarise, this project aligned with the idea of producing research for a better world in a number of ways. We've attempted to change the narrative and celebrate pupils' multilingualism as an asset, which in itself deserves so much more attention than current policy chooses to give it at the moment. By collaborating with schools, academics, and institutions beyond England, we've been able to come up with creative solutions that are of benefit to teachers and the pupils that we've worked with. And lastly, this study has helped contribute to shape our understanding of an area that is grossly under-researched because of the perceived difficulties that come with undertaking research in multilingual classrooms. So all that's left to say is thank you very much for listening. Please do take a look at our project website, which is here. We'll be updating it soon with more information about our findings. But in the meantime, you can find out much more about the EPL itself, which I haven't had enough time to talk about today. And you can have a read about what we've been up to so far. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, Anita. What a wonderful story, and so articulately described, very clear, and thank you for that. And clearly a project that is going to have further national impact, which is why it was selected as our Research for a Better World in the national category. We're now going to switch to our 3-minute thesis competition. So the rules for the 3-minute thesis competition is that our contributors get one slide, can speak for 3 minutes, and then Pam puts up a great big red sign, or worse, and we drag that, there we go, great big red sign here. So we're going to have 4 3-minute thesis presentations, and then we have some other things, and we'll come back to the other 3-minute thesis presentations at the end. So please don't vote until you've heard all 7 of them. So we're going to start with, it's Beverly. This title is great. Should students read more books by dead white men? So 3 minutes, please.
Imagine a student, 16 years old, coming to the end of their secondary education here in England. One of the most important qualifications they will take is their English language exam, as they need to pass to move on to the next phase of their education and for many jobs. Each year, there's a different text to read and different questions. Our student is reading a story about a young woman staying in a hostel in Australia, and her mother arrives and starts complaining about the dirt and the lack of security. Students need to show that they understand the mother's complaints, but our student is struggling because the only time she's ever heard of a hostel before is as a homeless hostel. The exam needs her to understand that hostels can also be cheap holiday accommodation. But what if this student doesn't have any friends or family who's been backpacking? What if she's never been on holiday? What if she doesn't live in the countryside near a youth hostel? I'm a teacher, and the example I've given is a real one where students struggled with this word. And my research is motivated by trying to help students, whatever their background and wherever they live, to understand everything in their exam. Research into vocabulary tells us that the best way to learn new words is through multiple experiences in meaningful contexts. But where can students hear the kinds of words that will be in their exam? Will it be in their lessons at school, in their independent reading for pleasure at home, or just in their everyday lives? I used corpus linguistics, a computerized method of language analysis, to try to find out where the exam words were most likely to be found. And what I discovered was that they were most likely to be found in older, traditional fiction and poetry. Students already read these kinds of texts for their literature GCSE, and the literature curriculum is already criticised for its lack of diversity and representation because of the dominance of the writings of dead white men. So if success in the English language exam is going to duplicate knowledge of these texts, then maybe we really need to reconsider the exam. I started out wanting to help students improve their vocabulary for their exam, but now I think the exam needs to change so that it no longer depends on the writings of dead white men, but instead on the words and vocabulary that students hear in their lessons, in their reading for pleasure, and in their everyday lives. That way, more students will have a fairer chance of doing well, no matter what their background or where they live.
Thank you, Beverly. Nurizaman is our second presenter. Just to show how varied the research is, this is where we're going next.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to my 3-minute thesis presentation. What's porcine postweaning diarrhea? Porcine postweaning diarrhea means diarrhea in pigs after weaning, whereas weaning means separation of piglets from their mother after 4 to 5 weeks of age. Post-weaning diarrhea is a major burden for the pig industry throughout the planet, while E. coli, F4, and F18 are the most common causal agents of this global threat. Further, zinc is believed to positively affect the intestinal microflora of pigs in controlling diarrhea, caused by both enterotoxigenic and shiga-toxin-producing E. coli during weaning. That's why intervention with zinc oxide has been practiced for a long time in the swine industry to promote pig health. But it's not clear how zinc prevents or controls this gut pathogen infection. Therefore, 4 relevant pig pathogen strains, E. coli strains, were used to observe the effects of different concentrations of zinc in laboratory cultivations. Interestingly, in case of all 4 strains, the bacterial growth were in declining mode in all the zinc-treated groups. Most importantly, at 8-hour time point, in case of 0.78 millimole zinc, there was around 96% reduction of the initial total population of enterotoxigenic E. coli pathogens. These results clearly highlight the antibacterial impact of zinc on these pathogenic strains. Moreover, the tissue repairing and secretion drying property of zinc could be an additional benefit to minimize diarrhea regardless of the causes behind. Finally, thank you very much. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much. We're going to do the seat shuffle again as Ronan joins us. And now for something completely different. Ronan.
Okay, so imagine you're walking in the woods on a sunny afternoon when suddenly you encounter a huge, vicious bear. Most people would agree that fear is a fitting response. That's to say, the danger posed by the bear means that it's an appropriate emotion to have in your situation. Now imagine a similar scenario, but instead of a bear, it's just your friend in a Paddington costume. Here it seems that fear is unfitting, as there is no real danger. Maybe amusement or exasperation could be more appropriate. But why should we be interested in the fitting way to feel? Well, at least since the days of Plato and Aristotle, philosophers have been interested in explaining the nature of moral goodness. One such explanation is the fitting attitude analysis, which says that for X to be good is for it to be fitting to respond to X with approval. So for example, when we say that giving to charity is morally good, this just means that it's fitting to approve of giving to charity. Now, although this kind of theory has been popular among many philosophers, there's little agreement as to what fittingness actually means. To take our example of fear, some people think that for fear to be fitting in response to the bear is for it just to be the case that you ought to fear the bear. Others think that for fear to be fitting means it is in some sense good to fear the bear. And finally, some people think that for fear to be fitting is for there to be sufficient reason to fear the bear. In my research, I assessed the various definitions of fittingness and proposed them on my own. To do this, I point out various counterexamples and logical inconsistencies in the proposed definitions, while asking whether the definitions accord with our prior intuitions about the fitting way or the appropriate way to feel. In this way, I show that fittingness cannot be defined in terms of ought, goodness, or reason. Instead, I propose that fittingness is an irreducible, that is sui generis, normative concept, and that philosophers from all disciplines need to treat fittingness as an independent normative concept.
Thank you, Ronan. And for a scientist, that is exactly the thing I was talking about, seeing how other people think, because I don't think like that, but I wish I did. Sorry, Victoria.
So, what if I told you everything around us is inherently radioactive? From the ground beneath our feet to the food we eat and even the air we breathe. There are various mechanisms, both natural and man-made, that can influence concentrations of naturally occurring radioactivity. Changes in rock type, vegetation cover, and even whether it's rained recently can cause immeasurable differences in the concentrations of radioactivity present in the ground. Throughout history, humans have also been able to influence this radioactivity. This has been achieved through the import of construction materials from other regions, the concentration of materials naturally rich in radioactivity, such as clay and brick making, and other industrial processes. My hypothesis is that some ancient human activities have caused immeasurable differences in this radioactivity, sufficient that we can see the very features our ancestors left behind. To test this hypothesis, I've undertaken radiation surveys at several archaeological sites. Surveys were undertaken using a portable gamma radiation surveying system known as Groundhog, which was developed for use in the nuclear industry, principally for the identification and mapping of man-made contamination. To understand how Groundhog works, imagine going for an X-ray. The X-ray leaves the machine, passes through your body and hits an X-ray plate to create an image. X-rays that are slowed down by harder tissues, such as bone, create lighter areas of the image, whereas X-rays pass easily through softer tissues create darker areas. In a similar sort of way, when I undertake a radiation survey, gamma rays pass from the archaeological feature and surrounding soil, travel through the ground and hit my detector. This generates data which can be processed to create an image similar to your X-ray. In this case, however, areas containing higher concentrations of radioactivity are presented in one color, whereas areas containing lower concentrations are represented in another. In the example behind me, you can see two purple parallel lines indicating the presence of a buried Roman road. The purple color suggests that these roads are made of a material containing less radioactivity than the surrounding soil. If proven to be successful, this technique offers a new, unique, and complementary tool to existing non-intrusive survey methods, indeed the first for around 50 years. It built on existing good practices, whereby data such from multiple survey methods are combined and integrated to improve the quality of data interpretation. Looking forward, I hope to expand the scope of this study to look for buried paleontological features such as dinosaur bones. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Victoria, and thanks to all four of you for the first half. Stay tuned, folks. Our next slot is a guest speaker we've invited along, Dr. Etienne Roesch, who's a long-standing friend and colleague, who is here to talk to us about an important and increasingly important area for the university around open research. So, Etienne.
Hi there. I'm super excited to be here and talk to you, mostly because I genuinely believe that our survival as a species lies in your hand. No pressure. My job in the next 10 minutes is to put some fuel on that fire, and your enthusiasm for research. If you really want to fall asleep, please don't snore. That's the take-home message. Research integrity is only about doing good work, so we should actually engage, and there are many reasons to do that. Research integrity is about everything we do. It's about every single person on that campus who is helping you in your research, who is teaching you how to do things, who's co-authoring papers with you. And it's not because someone does not enjoy not having holidays or writing papers during the weekend that only 5 people are going to read, that they are not actually doing research. They are actually supporting research as much as anybody else. And my experience of the campus is that the ethos of the university, the community that we have, really pushes us to go beyond compliance and to foster amazing work. And I'm here to explain that there will be many opportunities for you to engage with research integrity as a topic. To start with, this is my one slide on the reproducibility crisis. If you've heard about it, and you will know that we need plenty of different slides for that, but this is my one summary of the studies that I like, mostly in my domain. On the bottom right corner, you have the famous salmon study, where they put a dead salmon in an MRI scanner, showed the dead salmon pictures of humans interacting, and asked the salmon to imagine what the humans were, the dead salmon, to imagine what the humans may be thinking. And And lo and behold, stats and p-values showed that the salmon has some brain areas that light up when it tries to understand humans. On the bottom right, top right corner is a bit of a more complicated graph. Each dot represents a single study that have been published in Science or Psychological Science, Nature, or a big journal like that, and that has been tried to be replicated. And so someone else took the paper and redone the experiments with a different group of participants and tried to redo these experiments. And on the x-axis and the y-axis, you see the different effect size of the original study and the replication study. The take-home message from that one picture is that only 39 of these 100 studies actually replicated. So let me repeat, only 39 of these studies actually replicated. And so this is what you would find in the textbooks for psychology. Maybe more worryingly, so obviously 69% of the studies did not replicate, but maybe more worryingly, about, I don't remember the number exactly, but any red dot that is beyond the horizontal bar is a study that found an effect size that went in the opposite direction as the one described earlier. Okay. And so these are the studies that, our textbooks are based on. So it's really important. And this replication, and so that fueled the replication crisis. It became a big thing in my field, and many people got worried. But that is in psychology, and I can tell you that it happens everywhere, in geography, in history, everywhere. I've just listed two interesting papers here. The one thing that usually captures people's attention is the one about preclinical cancer biology. A similar study to the one I've just described has been done for preclinical cancer biology, and you'd think that this is an important topic that would elicit more robust results, maybe than psychology. I don't know. But only 46% of the results actually replicated. And I say, if you squint, because they also managed to replicate null results. And I don't know about you, but I can replicate null results with my eyes closed. So I'll take a step back a little bit and spare you the details of the reproducibility crisis and everything, and give you the take-home message about that, is that it's actually not so much of a crisis. Crisis for me is a thing that happens right now, which didn't exist before. And so on. What we're looking at now is more of the results of the way that we have been doing science and behaving as a society generally. And so there are many things that can be improved all the time, and research is not any different. The wrong incentives, the wrong success metrics, the wrong way of speaking about research, and Pete just after that probably is going to say something about that. So it's not so much a crisis as much as a way of doing work together. And what I really want to hammer down into your brain is that research misconduct is just the tip of the iceberg, right? And that is not the reason there is a reproducibility crisis. The reason there is a reproducibility crisis is because of the little things that we think are good enough, but just compound and lead to unforeseen results. The reproducibility crisis and robust science, you may know, is a big thing these days. I've just splashed on the screen all the different documents that I've could come across from the UK government about bigger institutions like UNESCO and the UN and so on. Everybody is talking about the fact that maybe we should be doing research a bit in a more robust way. And obviously, so I'm the first one to mention ChatGPT. Tack, done. With AI and all these different things just get messier, right? And it's not just about reproducing or reusing a reference that doesn't exist because you've just read a paper from someone who just lifted ChatGPT output and didn't really check the references, and then it creates a phantom of a reference that just exist now, but never existed because that is not true, basically. It can also be about the way that we're doing research and analyzing our data, the algorithms that you're using. In this third section, so we did lots of math and decided our data was actually fine. That is not different than you selecting a test for your analysis. If the t-test doesn't work, let's try an ANOVA. Why not? Same thing. In the UK, there are two different bodies that have been striving to help with research integrity. UK Rio is a bit the older, UK CORI is a new kids on the block. UK CORI is a new body from the government that sort of wanted to organize things a little bit. And so they're new. We give them the benefit of the doubt. We'll see what comes out of that. But they're really nice people and they really want to help us, so why not? The one thing that I think you need to keep in mind is that there is actually a genuine will from the different institutions to foster research integrity. And so Reading, as much as other universities, are signatories of the Concordat to support research integrity, that it's a framework that describes policies and that organizes responsibilities about how to describe and manage research integrity. Not least, we provide a yearly statement that describes what we've done in the last year to support research integrity, what sort of training is available, and so on. So you need to be aware that this exists. Reading is actually, I mean, you may or may not know, but Reading is actually pushing very much this in the UK. I like the shape of this graph. I originally produced that graph a few years ago with a specific intent in mind to describe the sequence of events. But what I realized is that the funnel that sort of fans out from the studies in 2009 and 2015 that I talked about earlier, and every little thing that we have been doing as a university. We have a Committee for Open Research and Research Integrity now that actually advises on policy for the university. We are funding different training, different journal clubs. We have the Open Research Champions. We have all kinds of trainings available and so on. And we are doing quite a lot with this. And many universities actually now look at us to try to see, oh, what do they do? And so and actually not just the universities, even UNESCO came to us and asked, so how do you do your Open Research Champions? Which is really cool. So this is my last slide. The take-home message is research integrity is about everything we do. Right? It's nothing amazing and different than doing good work. And this is the reason why we are here. It's about everything we do. It's not just about doing experiments. It's also about the people who you're working with, who will help you find the paper that you need at the library, to find the book that you need. And my experience is that the university is really here to do good work. So that is it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Etienne. The view of Etienne says that it crosses all disciplines. Of course, in my world, how many times do I try and repeat an experiment out of a paper to synthesize something and it doesn't work? But if you're doing corpus analysis, how many words do you decide to search to make sure your valid results and so on? It touches every discipline within the university in all sorts of different ways. And it's not just focused on malpractice, which I think is a tiny element of that. Thank you. So we move now to the second contribution into our Research for a Better World category. And our speaker is Nuri. Where's Nuri? Africa. I must get new glasses. Then I'm doing this all the time. Oh, I really do need new glasses. It is, you're right. Thank you for that. 3-minute thesis, part 2. So at the end of these 3, we will have the opportunities for voting. So our first one is Majid first. Excellent. So Majid, 3 minutes. Pam has the red ticket. Off you go.
Good afternoon, everybody. You are welcome to my presentation. My research is based on recognized problems that the design intention is often wrongly assumed to be an accurate prediction of a future user action, leading to unsustainable use of building. The issue is that the approaches in use for the promotion of sustainability in building design have paid more attention to the environment and less attention to the social aspect of sustainability. Despite that, the widely accepted definition of sustainability have emphasized human need. This issue has led to assuming the building user as passive rather than active participant, and considering the designers as the main agent in the design process. Therefore, this research is to gain a better understanding of the relationship between the intention of the building designers and the practices of users to promote sustainability in future design. Accordingly, this research has investigated what people do and use in their daily activities in a workplace building in Oman. It has been observed that the practices of users tend to contradict design expectation, as you can see from the slide. A series of stories were investigated that hold cultural significance. The novelty of this finding is that they go beyond the traditional thinking of a design as a problem-solving activity and present the building as a distributed social accomplishment involving different actors. Therefore, this research can contribute to the minimal knowledge by mapping the theories of practice with the theories of building design that contribute to the minimal knowledge in sustainable design and building use within a Middle Eastern context. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We should do it in a circle, shouldn't we, or something like that? Yeah. Please, go on.
Hello everyone, my name is Gaia. I'm a first-year PhD student in the Department of Environmental Science, and today I will be making you itchy. Humans have been scratching their head for over thousands of years, mainly due to their own set of personalized parasites, namely tick, fleas, and lice. These parasites are extremely host-specific, meaning they live on one or a small range of species of hosts. In the case of humans, we have our very own human flea and human lice. Lice have taken it a step further, where they've adapted to specific regions of the human body, which is why we get head lice, body lice, and pubic lice. It comes of no surprise that these parasites are closely linked to the host that they live on, which is why my PhD project focuses on exploring the use of these external parasites found in archaeological and museum collections to learn more about the hosts that they are found on. I'll specifically be using commonly used archaeological techniques such as stable isotope and DNA analysis to find out about the past diet, location, but also the health of the host, as these parasites are often very important vectors for disease. I'm specifically focusing on arthropod external parasites, as their toughened exoskeleton allows them to preserve well, especially when conditions are very hot and very dry. An excellent example of this can be found in mummified remains, where these parasites are often preserved together with the host that they fed on during their lifetime. Another good example is that of museum collections, and you can see that behind me. That is me in the picture looking at Tasmanian tiger skins at the Cambridge University Museum of Zoology, where I was looking for parasite presence, and I found them in the form of a as of now unidentified parasitic egg. But there's much more out there just waiting to be found. And these parasites can not only contain well-preserved environmental DNA, but in some cases still preserve the blood meal of when they last fed.
And it is this blood that, when analysed, has a unique range of biological data in them as not found in otherwise used tissues such as teeth, bone, or hair. Despite their importance and prevalence, these external parasites are still largely overlooked in common current studies. But they make a very exciting opportunity to perform non-invasive sampling techniques, which can be very important, especially when specimens are of high cultural value, which is often the case with mummified remains. And when you're dealing with a finite resource such as an animal that has gone extinct, such as the Tasmanian tiger that went extinct in the 1930s. Therefore, to researchers like me, these parasites are tiny little treasure chests just waiting to be opened. Thank you.
Thanks. So our final 3-minute thesis presentation, Gochi team.
Thank you. So you may have seen these Russian dolls before, also known as matryoshka. And these interconnected nested dolls are the basis of Bronfenbrenner's theory of social ecology, which states that when individuals are surrounded by positive interacting ecosystems, then they're likely to be resilient. Resilience is the ability to recover from adversity, and academic resilience focuses on academic adversity, such as poor performance, exam anxiety, and stress that can undermine the ability to learn and to be motivated. So I'm interested in studying resilience because as a teacher, when we are able to understand resilience and how to support our students, we can encourage them to have positive outcomes, and we can help to boost and promote their resilience. So my study is looking at the perspectives and experiences of sixth form students in the area of academic resilience. And the 16 to 18 age group are an under-researched category. So this is an opportunity to make an original contribution to research. The study is in 3 parts. The first part is an online academic resilience questionnaire. And the initial results of the questionnaire show that students score very highly in the area of self-efficacy and perseverance, but not so highly in the area of emotional response to negative events. The second part of the study is a student focus group. And again, the initial findings from that is that students associate strong family support with resilience. The final part of the study is a number of interviews, of staff and students exploring this idea of resilience further. It's hoped that this 3-part study will be able to give some insight into resilience and those ecosystems that surround our students, and also help us as teachers to be able to design tools and strategies to improve their resilience and their academic outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you, Free. Thank you all for that. So now it's up to the people's choice. So you do have a sheet that's got QR code on it. Two-sided. So there is, on the one side, are the opportunities for you to vote for the things that were outside before we started the conference. Your research object, pictures, poster, and the image. And on the other side, it has the 3-minute thesis talk for you to use the QR code and vote. So we have a Mentimeter tally for that going on. Yes. Okay, it's like a TV game show, isn't it? Vote now. Oh, we get excited. You have to do it right now if you're Hopefully those QR codes are working. Oh yes, they're flooding in. So we'll collect those and we will award those, we'll tally them up and we'll award those prizes towards the end. Good. So now we really are moving on to the next contribution in our Research for a Better World. And this is in our global category, which is Naru, who's going to share for the next 10 minutes or so some of her work that you'll appreciate does have global impact.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Anuru Kipato, and I'm a PhD student in International and Rural Development. Today, I'll be sharing with you my research project on examining and supporting holistic management of risk by smallholder farmers. So it's a fact that farmers feed the world, and the majority of these farmers are smallholder farmers. Recent statistics show that 80% of the farms in the world are owned by smallholder farmers, but only 30% of the world food that we eat is produced by these farmers. So what could be the reason for this difference? Well, I bet there are many, but it is also a fact that smallholder farming is prone to many risks, such as pests and diseases, plenty of rains that may end up leading to floods, long dry spells that end up leading to drought, and in the end, these risks can cause tremendous effects to the food production, the economy of the farmers, as well as their well-being. So what is risk in this context? Well, here we refer to risk as that uncertain exposure to an unfavorable event that could disrupt a growth. And we know that from research that these risks that farmers face can be categorized into 5 categories. That is production risks, their market risks, financial risks, personal risks, and institutional risks. But most research has been shown to only focus on single risk within the production category, the production risks, such as weather risks, and the market risks, such as price volatility risks. But also research has shown that these risks do co-occur and are interdependent in nature. And therefore, focusing on managing a single risk while ignoring another risk does not help one to fully meet their goals in engaging in agriculture. So what could we do? So in this research, in my research, we then looked at how we explored the question, how can we help a farmer analyze and manage the multiple risks that they face in a holistic manner? That is, in a manner that utilizes the relationships between risks, reduces the root causes of the risks, considers the multiple effects of the strategies that they employ, as well as builds their short and long-term resilience to these risks. So we conducted this research through a case study in Singida region in Tanzania, which is found in the eastern part of Africa. And this region is characterized as a semi-arid region. And farmers in this region mainly grow maize and sunflower, where they intercrop them with legumes. And they also integrate livestock in their farms. And this region is known to be exposed or prone to risks such as drought, heavy rains that lead to the farms flooding, and also price volatility of the crop produce among the many risks that they face. So in this research, we conducted this research through a series of phases that involved participatory focus group activities with 125 farmers over a period of 2 years, and fieldwork just completed in March this year. So in the phase 1, we started by looking along with farmers. We looked at the analysis of we analyzed the relationships between risks. And then in the phase 2, we investigated the role of the visual diagrams in managing multiple risks that farmers face. And then we went further to phase 3 to develop and test a process to support that holistic thinking in the management of risks by these smallholder farmers. So in the phase 1 of the analysis of the relationship between risks, we used the scored causal diagram. Here is just a subset on your left. It's just a subset on your left, yes. Oh, it's just a subset of the scored causal diagram. And we found that in this analysis of by analyzing this relationship between risks, farmers did change the way they perceive the risks. That is, in terms of the level of threat posed by each of the risks that they identified. And then in the phase 2, we went further now to use the causal diagrams that were developed by farmers in the first phase. We adapted this. We customized the scored causal diagram to match the seasonal calendar of the region, and then we tested it with farmers to see how would this diagram change their plans or concerning their risk management plans. That was one of the bit of phase 2. And then we also went further to test and develop Bayesian, a simple Bayesian network adapted from the same causal diagram built in phase 1, and to see then how could farmers use this tool, this visual tool, to change their plans concerning risk management. So in both tools, the scored causal diagram and this Bayesian network, we realized that these diagrams were helpful in helping farmers prepare for the risks, but it did not necessarily change their management plans. This implied that with or without the diagrams or the visual, the Bayesian network, farmers would use the same risk management strategies, and they would use the same approach, that is managing a single risk at a time. So given these findings in the phase 2, we then went and developed a process to enable farmers to manage these risks, the multiple risks that they face more simultaneously and systematically. So we developed a process that involved 4 major steps, where we began by analyzing the resource base of the farmers and the activities that they were involved in. And then we went further to step 2 to analyze the relationship between risks using the same scored causal diagram that were built in phase 1. And then we went further from the analysis of these relationships to identify short and long-term management strategies that could be used to reduce some of these risks shown in the causal diagrams. And then further, the 4th step involved gave a chance for a self-assessment of these farmers on the strategies that they would employ in their own context within their households and farms. So this process proved helpful in that it helped farmers identify the root causes of risks. Also, it helped them to examine the multiple risks at the same time. It also triggered a self-analysis of the ability to manage risks, and also they were able to assess the economic, social, and environmental effects of the strategies that they were proposing, as well as identified some community-level strategies to be employed. So given this effect from this case study, we then think that a way forward would be to this process to be tested in newer contexts, or newer contexts with other smallholders within the region and also in other continents. And as well as looking at the effect on the holistic thinking, but we should also assess the impact, the impact of this process on farmers' production, economy, and as well as well-being, their well-being. So I propose that there will be a better world from this research, a better world if this developed process were adapted by extension workers and people who work closely with farmers to support them in reducing some of the risks, using the process to reduce some of the risks, and also build the smallholder farmers' resilience to these risks by developing strategies that reduce the risks, and as well as likely to increase that more than 30% of the world food now could be produced by these smallholder farmers. And in terms of the impact, this PhD work has been presented in various conferences, beginning from the School of Agricultural Policy and Development conferences to international conferences hosted by the Collaboration for Resilient Food Systems of the McKnight Foundation. And there are 3 manuscripts along the way, with 1 paper proposal being accepted in a special issue of the Sustainability Journal. And the potential collaborations of this work from the funders of this work, which is the McKnight Foundation, and has got influence on global food systems, and as well as Sokoine University, where I work, and where I intend to explore more on the impact of this process, and Recorder, which is an NGO that supported my fieldwork and is interested in testing and adapting this process with their farmers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. What a wonderful example of research that's touching, well, not just a region, but globally, something that will hopefully roll out. That holistic view will be used in other areas with smallholder farmers. So we move to our next competition, which is our research film entries. So this is where candidates have put in a short film to highlight their research. And we have 2 entries this year that we'll play one after the other.
Oman is located at the southeastern tip of the Arabian Peninsula and features a wide range of terrain. The country is split by a vast desert in the center and mountainous coastal regions in the south with rainforest-like clouds. Oman is generally characterized by a dry to semi-dry region with an average of 117.4 millimeters of precipitation recorded each year. Within this variety of terrain, Oman is highly diverse in habitats such as wadis, plateaus, sand deserts, and mountains, where my treasure, Alia europea subcuspidata, wild olive, is mainly located in 3 mountain ranges, the Western and Eastern Hajar Mountains and Dofa Mountains. These mountain habitats are vulnerable to many disturbances derived from a range of anthropogenic effects such as urbanization, climate change, overgrazing, illegal logging, and the introduction of non-native species, as well as naturally occurring insect pests and diseases. During field expeditions for my research across Oman, no new growth of wild olive was spotted in all the mountain ranges. Therefore, studying the morphological and genetic diversity of wild olive across Oman will play an essential role in establishing an effective conservation strategy of wild olive in Oman.
Good, so once again you have your QR code there to be able to vote for your People's Choice winner of those 2 films.
Very successful.
Let's double check my program this time, triple check it, because I think our next slot is from our second guest speaker for today, which is our head of the press office, Pete Castle from the university. So Pete can find his way through. You stand behind me recording. Okay. Perfect. Pete.
Thank you. I was just voting for my favourite film there as well. So thank you so much for coming today and for inviting me. It's a real privilege. I think what we've all sort of witnessed today so far is a really great variety of research communications, and my job today is to try and encourage you and to make yourself think of yourselves as media stars, not just media stars of the future, research stars of the present, but of now as well. And I'm hopefully take you through some examples of where we've worked as the University Press Office with some PhD students here, and tell a few stories about that as well. So if there's one message that I want you to go away with, I think my grammar might be not very good in this statement. Is media a plural or a singular? Never mind. But think about media as being an opportunity for you as researchers in your field. And sometimes it can be feel a bit intimidating thinking about media, and you may have an image of what that means. So hopefully I'll take you through a few examples of what that can mean. But if you consider using media as an opportunity for not just for yourself, but for your field, for your discipline, and for your department, for the university, it's an opportunity that you can really embrace if you throw yourselves into it, show a little bit of courage, and use some of the skills that you're learning as PhD students and as active researchers and experts in your field. So just a little bit about what we do in the press office at the university. Mostly we point out the Vice Chancellor when he wanders in, late, thanks, Robert. But other than that, here's some infographics here of what the university has done in the media over the past couple of years. I think the detail in this infographic, which I'm most proud of, I think, is not necessarily the level or the sort of league table of how we are as a university compared to other universities or anything like that, but is the statistic about the number of academics who are actively involved or have been involved in media in an individual year. So 405 in 2021, 413 in 2022. That's amongst, we're sort of counting essentially research active academics, which is about a third of those working in research at the university. And that doesn't count all of you when you're appearing in the media, mainly because it's difficult to count and we don't necessarily know who you are. But you're on top of that, so we want to try and encourage as many people as possible to actually be involved in media. And you might ask yourself, why is that? Why do media want to talk to academics? And what is it that you've got that the rest of the world doesn't have? Why should anyone come and talk to you? And this Etienne very kindly set us up to have this discussion, talking about reproducibility and the sort of ethics of research and why that's so important. And this is why that's so important. Ultimately, this is from a survey, I think, which is pre-pandemic, 2019, I think, from Comres. And you can see the different levels of trust there is in society. I think they also asked, I didn't put where press officers and journalists are on this scale because, that would just be embarrassing. But I think you can see there that as in the category of university academics, you're almost as trusted as politicians are untrusted, distrusted. I reckon after this week, actually, it might even be quite a lot further than that. But that shows you that is an opportunity for you. If you ask, the same survey was asking people for characteristics of researchers and scientists and academics, and they come up with lots of positive sounding words. One of the things they also say is that they're really bad at PR, and that sounds like a criticism, but actually it's a fantastic opportunity again for you, because you only have to be a little bit better than the person beside you, and to be able to communicate what your research and your expertise to be a really fantastic research communicator. So I'll take you a bit of some examples of what I mean by media, and tell you a few stories about what we've done at the university and further afield. And really what I want to do is to challenge what you think about when you think about media and think about the sort of changing landscape of media. And the one thing, when I think of media, to be honest, because I used to be a news journalist, I think about news, and it's the thing that that when I wake up in the morning, I switch on the radio and I want to know what the news is. But it's only one tiny part of media, and these days there is so much interaction between all of the different varieties that you encounter. I'm sure a number of you now are looking on your phones and you're looking at to see what's on Twitter. You know, you might be sort of taking some pictures and posting them yourself. You might be scrolling through BBC News and that sort of stuff. But there is a lot of interaction between those things. But let's talk about news media because it's the most fun part of media. And this is a picture here of Jeff DaCosta, who I think is here today. Jeff, are you? There's Jeff. Hello, Jeff. So I'm now going to tell you a story about Jeff, which Jeff's a PhD student in the School of Geography and Environmental Sciences, the Department of Geography and Environmental Sciences, and he works with the Water at Reading Research Group. Now, in July 2021, thank you, there was a lot of rain in Europe, and Jeff happens to be a flood researcher. And he happens to be from Luxembourg, and he happened to be in Luxembourg when all this rain came down, and he happened to be living in his parents' house or near to his parents' house when his parents' house was flooded. Now this was what you call a godsend, an absolute gift. We were asking for our flooding experts who would like to talk about flooding. There's all this flooding going on. All these people have died tragically in Germany. Belgium's underwater. Luxembourg, you know, their houses flooded and that sort of stuff. And we were told, well, Jeff's there and his parents will be flooded. He's helping move. He's ankle deep in water in his parents' basement at the moment. And that's exactly the kind of image that I wanted to hear, because we were able to not only provide expertise from someone who is a researcher in floods, but someone who was literally standing in floodwater at that moment, impacted by himself. And Jeff went on to do a number of engagements with the media, providing comment, providing personal accounts of his own experiences and that of his family, but also providing with that academic sort of rigor to be able to do that. Talked to Jeff afterwards about what happened after that. It got a bit interesting, and he ended up at the centre of a massive political scandal in Luxembourg as a result. Which was fun for you, right, Jeff? But it started talking to news media. Apparently, there's this thing called social media now, and this is a good way to sort of think about the fact that the interaction between news and social media. And I'm highlighting the work of Ella Gilbert, or Dr. Gilbs, as she's known on YouTube. She's a vlogger, and she writes about climate change. She was a postdoc at Reading, but previously had been sort of started her sort of vlogging career while she was a PhD student at the British Antarctic Survey, which is where she has gone back to recently. But I think this is a great example of using every channel possible to really get messages across to as wide an audience as possible. And Dr. Gilbs will approach a whole range of subjects around her sort of main topics of climate change and the Antarctic in particular. But as a result of this kind of work, she's been asked to appear in news media, to appear in documentaries, all kinds of things. And she was named one of the top 30 environmental figures in the UK by the Sunday Times 2 years ago. As a result of that, you can do this too, if you so wish. Broadcast media, I think we have to talk about this. Here's Will. Is Will here? Hello, Will. Hi. So I'm sure all of you attended Will's Fairbrother lecture, which was fabulous. This is Will in our studio in One Night's House talking to BBC Radio Berkshire about his lecture. But I think I wanted to highlight that you are, as experts in your field, you are able to talk in fascinating ways to broadcast media, and there is so much opportunity to do this. Local radio is a fantastic starting point that will provide you with, can provide you with a starting point. But I also, if for those of you, occasionally we get accused in the press office, oh, you only care about science. It's who cares about arts and humanities, and it's much more difficult to explain. There are some really good schemes, particularly within the BBC, which are looking for new voices in arts and humanities. And there's an AHRC BBC scheme called New Generation Thinkers. It's open to PhD students, and if you have any sort of ambition to speak through broadcast media, I'd really encourage you to have a look at that and to apply. Also on the subject of BBC schemes, there's a scheme called the 50-50 scheme, which is an effort to try and increase the diversity of voices on the BBC and other external media. The University of Reading is a member of that scheme. We count the number of voices that we have on broadcast media and proactive media that we're involved with an effort to try and reach gender diversity, equality, and broader diversity as well. I have to mention print. Who here bought a newspaper this morning? Helen bought a newspaper this morning. Well done. But that's one person. That's probably. I'm surprised actually in you. I'm disappointed in you, Helen. But no. I'm as an ex-print journalist. What was it? The Guardian. Oh, the Eye. Okay, the cheap one. Fair enough. But let's not discount print. It's still a valuable thing. And I've highlighted here. You'll recognise this image of the climate stripes designed by Ed Hawkins. I mean, it's everywhere, right? Around campus. But one of the great things about the reason that the climate stripes have been so compelling and used time after time. Has anyone got climate stripes on anything? Robert's wearing a badge with it on. Has anyone got like a cup with climate stripes on, or? Yeah, there we go. You see, so it prints on things. That's one of the beauties of the climate stripes. And so you can see Greta Thunberg's book, the front page of the local newspaper, and the front page of The Economist. One of the great things about the climate stripes is it appears on print things, and people still read print things. So don't discount it. I'd also highlight the opportunity of blogs, and this blog in particular, I think is still by Caroline will know the figures. I think last time we looked, this is Mohammed, who wrote this blog. It was based on his PhD thesis, which the conversation will accept blogs from PhD students writing about their area of research. And it's still the most read article, I think, the conversation has ever had. Is that right, Caroline? Yes, thanks. Yeah, I thought it was more than that. But still, it's been read a lot of times. And if you don't know the conversation, I really encourage you to go and have a look at it. I think that every PhD student should be submitting a blog to the conversation based on your area of research. Talk to your supervisors about it. But it's a really fantastic way, with the help of professional journalists, to edit a story together, which is of a compelling story for the rest of the world. And then it gets picked up. The I run columns based on conversation articles, as only Helen knows in the whole world, probably. So sometimes people say to me, I ring them up and say, do you want to go and talk to some journalists or talk on the telly? And they say, well, I'd love to, but I can't because I'm not media trained. And I'd like just to tell you, at the beginning of your research careers, doesn't matter if you're media trained or not. Media training is just practice, basically. But I will give you some homework to do with your next media appearance in mind. And that's this. If you think about all of the stuff that everyone has said today, think about what's the one thing that sticks in your mind the most. And for me, I think about it, I'm thinking, I'm kind of scratching my beard because of your stuff about ticks and stuff like that, right? So that's imagery like that is the one thing that tends to sort of stick in people's minds. I would really encourage you to try and think about how can you come up with imagery that will help you to tell your stories. So that's my 1 minute of media training. So you're all media trained now. If you get asked to do anything and you're in need of help, then come and talk to us. We are here for you as the graduate school and as PhD students as well as academic staff. So come call us or talk to us if you need help. And just to encourage you and let you know that you can do it. I really look forward to working with you.
I would just reinforce that the press office here are fantastic at providing that support. There's lots of different support for you around the university. And those presentations we've heard so far, you speak really well, you are articulate, you can clearly explain the projects, the driving force behind them and so on. So do feel comfortable in exploiting some of these media opportunities. So we move on to our final talk of the three around our research for a better world. So we heard earlier about the national impact of multilingualism and education for multilingualism. Then we heard about smallholder farming. Now we're going to hear about a local project, although it has potential to be national as well. So please, it's Marta who's going to talk to us for about 10 minutes on air pollution in Reading.
Hello, my name is Marta O'Brien. I just want to go back to Pete's presentation. Pete's been really supportive through my work, and Pete's team are always awesome. And I personally prefer TV than radio because there's no second take on the radio. That's my personal preference. So I work on air pollution, and I'm an environmental scientist and been for over 20 years. What this slide doesn't tell you is that my research has been inspired by air quality by my children's schools in Reading. So what do we know about air pollution? It could be different type of pollution, chemical, physical, biological, and it releases from different sources. So we've seen on news what recently happened in America, and obviously how polluted New York is. But in our local communities in Reading, it may never be as bad as it is in New York at the moment. But when we parents and taking our children to school, that's when we potentially think how bad the air is at our schools. So we've got a few pollutants that some of you may know. So the particulate matters, ground level ozone, nitrogen dioxide and VOCs. And all those pollutants affect not just human, but ecosystems and obviously all the animals, plants, and everything that's around us. And air pollution affects not just children, affects everyone from before we are born, through our childhood, teenage years, and until we are old and even more vulnerable to air pollution then. And we have heard of Ella, who has got air pollution as a cause of death on her death certificate. So this is where I think those conversations were taken more seriously, and how much more we have to look at the air quality by schools and in our towns. And I am particularly concentrating on Reading. I am assessing parents and children's and school staff understanding of air pollution, how dangerous it is, and if they actually realize what's happening when they're waiting there. School staff waiting for children to arrive, parents bringing the children, obviously parents driving by, trying to get as close to those school gates. This is the parents that struggle to get to those in the cars, but hopefully I will get there for the next few years of my PhD. I am looking closely at the air pollution by school gates, and I'm using different techniques to do that. And I will be quantifying those pollutions and looking very specifically at this short time when our children are brought to school, and I aim to propose policy change and to reduce those levels at school gates. So I've done surveys with parents now and carers, and most of them do see that there is a problem by school gates, and they do realize that air pollution may not be as, it may be a lot higher than they would like it. And they do see the cars by the school gates. And they do state that just by my research, they actually bring their attention to air pollution, and they start maybe reading or looking at the issue closer themselves. I use citizen science to engage local communities further. Obviously, children love carrying those little monitors on the backpacks, and then they get access to those maps. Straight away on the phone, they can see what is the level of pollution on the way to school, so they can maybe go for the green one that is offering cleaner air next day. I ask children express their opinions, so the secondary children are more open, obviously, to writing, when the younger children express their opinion to drawings. So that's one example. They do see also that maybe this is not as it should be. Obviously, engaging sessions with schools and with children. So this is a picture from a session at the Museum of English Rural Life last year, and obviously learning about air pollution. Then they bring it back to school and discuss the subject further with the teachers. And then, if you have children yourself, you hear about this at home. So through children, I aim to reach parents, even those that I don't usually speak to, those ones that just drive by the school and then go to work, or so they find out from the children, if not from me, that there is potentially an issue. So what the children say, they can see that air pollution comes from traffic, and they can see that it can have impact, or maybe the asthma may make it worse. They may have an attack because of the very poor air quality. And they do understand. I just turned off my timer, that's not good. Okay, so this is the equipment that I really I love, because this gives me exact data for the spikes. So I can see the average concentration, I can look at the average concentration, but this equipment shows me exactly, minute by minute, how high the air quality is at school gates, and at some point it goes as high as 3 times concentration that is allowed by DEFRA in the UK. And again, engaging with parents and schools, they have access to the QR code. They can scan the QR code themselves and have a look at the air quality at the gates at the time. So always engagement, always sharing the understanding and the danger of air pollution. And this is something that came as a surprise maybe to me, because halfway through a PhD, you don't expect to achieve such success which you were hoping to present as a recommendation. So what happened, that obviously my engagement with schools, also with local government, Reading Borough Council, now is working with the University of Reading using my research, and as of hopefully September, new term, they're gonna start delivering sessions to at least 33 schools. There are more schools in Reading than 33, but I think 33 is a lot. I personally work with just 10. The educational sessions to school, secondary and primary schools on air quality. So I think through this engagement with children, our local families and wider communities, this will hopefully bring more attention to air pollution, danger, and maybe will push forward the behavioral change that we are looking for, because we all have to work on the air quality around us, and it starts here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Important issues and actually controversial issues when you look at the ULEZ zones and the fuss that causes. So we come to our final set of contributions in the last category that we have, which is our poetry, rhyme and rap performance. And I'll be delighted that we have 4 entries for this year. And so I'll introduce our first entry, who is Vit Pickup.
So I came to start my PhD last year, having spent a decade at home looking after 3 small people and also being a carer, and going to work at the Museum of English Rural Life in the archives was quite a big transition, and this poem hopefully condenses that experience. It's called First Day in the Archives. I thought I knew how the day would go when I drove off on the school run, with my car boots still open. Its mouth yawning down the road, revealing a row of school bags and king kits teetering above the bumper. I regret my grievance at the Tesla driver who beeped. Thank the gods who make sure I'd put my laptop in footwell. Children unloaded, lunchboxes allocated, forms handed in, head teacher greeted, I kissed them goodbye. Then circumnavigate roadworks, follow diversions, observe my minute hand at the temporary lights, the joy of finding one parking space left. I walk beneath the red brick arch, past stitched roses, stained glass, measuring the step by step, the weight of a bag full of books and what I might come to know. I'm given a number, locker, hanger for my coat. Find my seat amidst the reading room quiet, the parquet floor and panelled oak of a diamond house built on biscuits. Outside, children play in the sunshine. A man digs for England in the wartime veg plot. Chickens cluck at a handout of corn. My phone is on silent and there's a green box waiting for me on the desk. MBAB002. And the reassurance of typeface. Carbon copy crackle, the sound of pencils, finger tapping, then handwriting, and in bold black curlicue, a new name, a thick file of letters, cuttings, clippings, postcards, memos, and at the back, in black and white, the face of a woman whose world I will enter today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Vic. Peng Yan will. So. You see, you want that. Good. That's.
Sorry, I think I salute first. So we should. Okay. I create this poem because of a crazy restriction after COVID. I had 5 years to go back to my home country, China, and then my poem includes 2 versions, so the Chinese one and the English one. So don't panic by reading Mandarin, okay?
思相取。故乡的山茶很快就要开了吧？那山在隐隐的月色里，温柔的水面上，山上那几处凉亭有少年的我的歇息，而如今是不是长满了荆棘？半山的红梅是不是挂了果，却无人问津？年复一年，静谧的清风穿过树林，陪伴过那个独自翻山越岭去上学的小孩，如今是否在陪伴着耄别老者？月光洒在清冷的夜里，在那条蜿蜒拾级而上的石板路上，有个短发少年来回张望，等待着归期。此刻泰晤士河的水草似乎向我招摇， Harry's Garden 的山茶已经慢慢吐露芳香，校园小河畔的加拿大鹅们在柔波里妄自嬉戏，而我在图书馆柔和的灯光下只听到绵绵的打字声。我失神了一会儿，望了望窗外，继续沉浸在这无边的静谧里。Homesickness and me. The camellia in my hometown is about to bloom, and the mountains moonlight on the water's plume. Those mountain gazebos where I took rest, now are they now full of thorns, no longer the best? Do the red berries on the mountain still hang, unpicked, unnoticed, year after year on? The quiet breeze through the woods did blow, accompany a child to school long ago. Is it now guiding our octogenarian's way through the forests and mountains day by day? In the cold moonlit night, the moon shone bright. On the winding cobblestone road, I see the sight. A girl with short hair looking back and forth, waiting for her return date, aching from north to south. The weeds in the river Thames sway and taunt. As I miss my hometown, my heart starts to haunt. But the camellia in Harry's Garden reveals its scent. The Canada geese in the small river frolic and repent. In the soft library light, I hear the typing sound, lost in boundless silence. My thoughts abound.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Margaret.
Hello, everyone. My name is Margarita, and the poetry that I will be performing for you today is called PhD in Chemistry. As a chemistry PhD student at the University of Reading, I delve into the world of powder and crystals beckoning. Using X-ray diffraction, my research takes flight, uncovering the mysteries of crystal structures day and night. In the lab, I spend my days grinding opioid samples in various ways, filling them into capillaries with precision. X-ray diffraction experiments is my mission. How's the research going? They will say, and I will reply with chuckle and play. Oh, just discovering the mysteries of light, one crystal structure at a time, without any strife. My tone might be lighthearted, but don't be fooled. My passion and drive for success are strong and cool. Earning a PhD is my goal, no compromise. With hard work and dedication, I will take that prize. Working on a thesis is not always fun. There's stress, long hours, and lots to be done. But passion and nights, a driving force, so true, guiding me forward to see this journey through. And let's not forget about my supervisor, so bright, Professor Kenneth Shanklin, a true delight. He's always there to help and give advice, making my journey much easier and nice. So here's to the laughter in the lab and the adventures that we've had. to the work I do with glee and the PhD I will eventually be. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to make sure, Kenneth didn't ask you to plug in there, did he? So our final poetry rough rhyme contender, Aishwarya.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so excited and thankful and for this wonderful opportunity to present this poetry in front of you today. I've named my poetry Lapse. PhD life is not about success, and as we all must have stumbled upon failures, and this poem is a tribute to all my failures. Lapse. Not all days the sky is bright, sunny and blue. Not a propitious weather for a walk, I thought. I decided to stay indoors and get some reading and writing done. After an hour of reading, suddenly a thought flickered. A hypothesis. I grinned as happy as a long-awaited fisherman who caught a bulky fish. There was a knock on my door. "Can I borrow your scissors, please?" asked one of my flatmates. "Sure," said I. Came back to my desk to find my thought betrayed me. I felt a pang, a miscarriage, a lapse. I set my hook again. Probably I'll get another fish this time, but not the one I missed. I'll have to wait for it to come back to me. Time dripped away like water in cupped hands. That morning slipped away so fast like shadows in the dark. I drew my curtain window to analyze the weather to take a walk. I keep my curtains closed to avoid the sight of a barren tree. That mossy tree just outside my building always looked lifeless to me. I felt empty like that tree that morning. I put on my burgundy coat and walked out my dorm. My lips blossomed as the showers caressed my face. I walked past my reflection on a stagnated pool of water. Staring through the window of the library cafe, I watched the Egyptian goose walk, bending its neck. It drank water from the muddy puddle. It must have something in its mouth to filter water from mud, I hoped. On my way back, the daffodils greeted with their yellow charm. The trees were starting to bloom. When will that tree, which I see through my window, start to bloom? I wondered. That evening, when I opened my window, some beauty can neither be captured in camera nor with words. That tree, dazzled with speckle of pearl-like water droplets on each of its branches. It resembled a tree that blossomed diamonds on all its branches. The hidden beauty in the lapse, I thought. Fidgeting my coin pouch, I realized how the two sides of a coin are indivisible. One side accompanies the other forever. Intermittent lapses are like Tom and Jerry to triumph. I started to appreciate the beauty in both. The lapses that I stumbled upon, the lapse and the stumbling, made research and life taste better with success. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you all four. So now it's time for you to vote for your people's choice for those poems. Whilst the judges also do their voting. Sadly, that brings us to the end of the conference, save for handing out some awards. But before we get to that, I just want to say a few thank yous. I want to say thank you to my colleagues in the graduate school who worked so hard to put this event on, and in particular Pam Stewart, who organises the vast majority of this, and many of our presenters have met Pam over several weeks in preparing for today. I also want to thank the supervisors who are here and the judges, but I mostly want to thank our postgraduate research students, you. I want to thank you for coming along. The breadth of stuff that's going on is phenomenal, and I hope you feel that yourselves. First of all, the quality is outstanding. And the breadth of it is astonishing. And what we've done today, we've gone from what is a fitting emotion to diarrhea in piglets. You know, it's remarkable, the breadth of stuff that's going on and everything in between. Although quite how you think of what goes in between those two, I really don't like to think. So you should rightly be proud of yourself. It's delightful to have you all here. As I said, I hope it's an opportunity where you get to meet people from different disciplines who you wouldn't ordinarily talk to. When we finish and we go out for drinks, have a chat to someone. Try and meet someone you've not met before and have a chat about what they're doing and how they think and why they do. And see if that just helps broaden your minds and your own perspectives. So, time for prizes. We have, as I said, we have the judges' prizes. I think the votes are in, it's like Eurovision. The votes are in from the Mentimeters that you've cast. I'm going to invite down our Pro Vice Chancellors for Research and Innovation, Professors Zaum and Yacoub, who are going to say a few words and then award the prizes, which we hope we've managed to collate correctly. Yeah, it's just the people's choices are coming. So we'll do the judges. We'll do the judges ones.
Great. So you might have heard the whistle. We're doing this in two parts. We're doing the judging prizes first, and then we will be doing the People's Prize. Etienne will reveal those. This is the second day of celebrating research at the university. Yesterday, as I said before, we had our research awards for research outputs and for impact projects or for research projects. It was great to see, and that's sort of a really nice bridge into today. A number of you there as well who actually awarded prizes, and as I said before, 3 of the 4 output awards were actually former PhD students. So no pressure. We look forward to seeing a few of you there when you become a researcher in a couple of years. And believe us, we remember. The Doctoral conference is a wonderful event. It is the breadth which is fascinating, but it's also the excitement that all of you show about your research, and the kind of the curiosity that just shines through all of the presentations, the poems, the films, the posters. Absolutely fantastic. But also, it's a glimpse into the future of your different disciplines. You know, the methods you use, the questions you ask. These are the roots of the papers that will be coming through in the disciplines the coming years. So for us, it's sort of an exciting look into the future. Now, we are recognizing individuals for your work, and their PhDs in a sense an individual project, but it's also kind of team research and team size. You're supported by many of your supervisors who are here today, so we should thank them all as well for their contributions to the PhD research. And of course the graduate school, which is a fantastic hub, both a social hub, but also a hub for your training and for your support. And we are absolutely delighted to have such a great graduate school with such a fantastic team. So thank you all very much for that. So we're not going to sort of drag this out any longer. We're not going to go to Finland after votes or another place. So we go straight to Praveen to make the answer of the first prize of the, which is the first one is the Research for a Better World competition.
So the winner of the Research for a Better World competition is Marta O'Brien.
We'll take photographs afterwards as a group photograph, I think, or take the odd one as was going on.
So the second one is the Research and Object competition. You would have seen those outside earlier, and the winner is Henrietta Hammond.
We know we're not steps.
Careful with the steps.
The winner of the research poster competition is Nagihan Osoy.
It's hot.
Now, the winner of the research film competition is Jane Elizabeth Bennett.
And the poetry, rhyme and rap competition winner is Hongyan Dang.
The winner of the research image competition is Peter Moore.
Building is distress. There's many people.
The winner of the Research Life in Pictures competition is unable to attend, but let's have a round of applause for Kimberly Perry. Oh, okay, so we have that. That's all we got. This is the 3-minute thesis winner.
So we hope that Deloitte or whoever has chosen the right one. It's not like the Oscars. The winner of the 3-minute thesis competition is Beverly Jones.
Yes, thank you both very much. But of course, as I said at the start, that is the judges' opinions, your supervisors, who we know always get things wrong. So what is your vote, your own vote, because it's your project now, you're leading it. That's what we always say to our PhD students, isn't it? So I have prizes, those that you have voted for yourself. So again, we will go through these, and please come down, clear your certificate. It's not framed yet because we've just done the scoring. So the research poster competition winner, Nagihan again. Which goes to show the supervisors do know something, actually. The Research Life in Pictures competition was Jingjian Ji. Take a breath, take a breath. Congratulations. Very well done. Research image competition winner that you voted for is Samir Sood. It's almost like graduation with the heels, isn't it? You just wish you didn't wear heels if you're up the back. It's when it's this, but you shouldn't anyway. Thank you. The research in an object competition, Lana Marie. Should I come to the back and do this? Would it just make my life easier? Oh, congratulations. Very welcome. 3-minute thesis competition. Your winner was Gaia. Very well done, congratulations. And we're all going to be itching for days now, aren't we? Is it your, what's your Twitter, have you got a Twitter handle?
Yeah, that itchy girl.
That Itchy Girl. Twitter handle, That Itchy Girl. Following on from what Pete was saying about making a present, That Itchy Girl. It's fantastic. Our research film competition winner, Soraya.
Congratulations. He's born to pack it.
And finally, your winner of the poetry, rhyme and rap competition was Hong Yan. Let's vote before by your peers. Super. So with that, just a final thank you for coming. We'll be here again next year. Make sure you get your entries in nice and early. It only works because of you putting the effort in to come and contribute and share what you're doing with your peers. Some refreshments will be out there. I'd like, if we could, the award winners perhaps to join us on the stairs in 5 minutes where we can get a group photograph. But other than that, thank you all for your time and for coming along.